We turn our attention now to politics, but this time in Abia State, and Dr. Alex Oti joins us now. He's the governorship candidate of the All Progressive Grand Alliance in Abia State. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, how's the campaign going, first of all?
It's going very well. People are excited about the change that is coming to Abia State. When we started, not too many people gave us a chance. But then, as the campaigns progressed and as people began to understand why I had to leave my job to come to Abia State, the excitement in the air, you can almost touch it. And I think it's basically because things have gone so bad in the state. The level of unemployment is so high. Teachers' salaries have not been paid in several months, up to 8 months. Civil servants have not been paid for upwards of 6 months. Local government workers are being owed for several months. Pensioners have not been paid in several months. The infrastructural decay in Abia State is so much that the change has to happen. So everybody's keen to that message of change.
Just before we go into the change that will happen, we've been on this, mantra of asking the private sector to be involved in politics. What has been your experience? Is it something you regret?
Far from it. I'm happy that I took that decision. Maybe I should have taken it earlier than now. The major thing that happens is that people are scared of new territory. And of course, those who have held down the system, particularly those who have been benefiting from the system, make it very difficult and make it scary. But for me, I thought I should not sit idly by. The easiest thing to do is to sit by and complain and then go back to what you're doing. But then I think it was Edmund Burke that says that the only condition under which evil will triumph over good is for good people to keep quiet and do nothing. So I thought I should make that sacrifice to contribute to my state. And I would encourage other technocrats and people in the private sector to join me, because I think
the thing is, not many who will just readily leave the private sector, especially while at your position, and then move into politics. They read the stories, they see what goes on a regular basis. But for you, at what point did you decide, I've had it, I have to see how I can contribute my quota to ensure things change?
You're very right. It was a very difficult decision. And I had a lot of people call me. I had people reporting me to people who I listened to, including my father-in-law, who called me and at some point thought that my head needed to be examined. There is normally not seen that somebody will leave the CEO position of, according to him, one of the big banks, and there were only 20 banks in the country, and you are going to an uncertain territory. But I thought that you cannot make omelets without breaking eggs. And for me, it was a decision that had to be followed through. Now, at what point did I make that decision? I can't remember precisely, but I had been looking at how things were in my state, and sometimes one gets embarrassed when one gets somewhere and you are asked where you are from. You say you are from Abia State, and the next question is, what exactly is happening in that your state? And if you take a tour to Abia State, you agree with me that the place can be a whole lot better. The place is filthy. If you go to Abia, for instance, and if you knew Abia before now, particularly for those of us who grew up, schooled in Abia, the famous Abia made goods, the famous Japan of Africa, it has gone down considerably. There are no roads into the place. The place is so filthy. Drainages are blocked. There is no power, no water. It's such a terrible state. And when you juxtapose that against the potentials of Abia that we know, the people are very creative, very hardworking, can make virtually everything out of nothing. All they need is government support. They need somebody who understands. And I believe at this point, it becomes very, very critical for us to begin to look at the direction of the private sector. If you've done it in the private sector, then the chances that you will fail in the public sector are very slim.
You know, we'll come into the house of how you aim to achieve some of those things, to rejig things in Abia State. But again, the dying question in me is, if you knew all of this, the filth, the picture, the visuals we just shown on television, and all of those things were in your state or are in your state, why would you, in the first move you made, decide to join the PDP, knowing full well that the government that has not done what you had expected it to do was a PDP government? Yeah. So why would you, intend to fly the flag of the PDP when you left Diamond Bank?
Good. Very interesting question. I am not...
APGA. You are now in APGA.
I'm now in APGA.
Yes.
It's a very good question. I'm not necessarily opposed to PDP. And you find that it is people that make institutions. We have functional PDP governments in some states. If you go to Enugu, you will see what the gentleman and his team have done. If you go to Akwa Ibom, for instance, and a couple of other PDP states. So I am not necessarily opposed to the party. Now, why did I leave? I'm sure that will be the next question. When I found that it was going to be impossible for internal democracy to happen in Abia PDP, as distinct from other PDP states, then it was time for me to leave. There was world congresses that were supposed to happen November 1, 2014. The PDP officials came from Abuja, and we were all prepared for the elections. But the elections never held. The people came in, the registers, world registers had been withdrawn, and they were just there waiting until the end of the day when elections were supposed to have been concluded. Elections did not hold in any of the wards, 184 wards. And all what happened was that they went in and wrote the names of the 3-man delegates for every ward. So for me, it was fait accompli, because what you expected was that those who wrote the names would direct them where they were going to vote. So there was no point.
You know, it's always a big task for people when they want to go into politics, especially coming from the private sector. Sometimes you think that, it's almost business as usual, the way it is in the private sector. Some of these things you've seen in your state, that you have said, bothers you, or bother you rather. How do you hope to clear them up? If you are speaking to the average Abian and they say, look, we've had it up to here, and we want to see some of these things, being reversed, bring Abia to the good old days, the made in Abia goods, and so many other things. Do you have a blueprint for how to actualize all of this? And if you do, you may just want to share some of them.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me start by laying a little foundation, and that is taking you back to the first question that we dealt with. The last question that we dealt with. Now, like I said, people make institutions. And sometimes when you have problems, the problems are traceable to people, maybe a set of people, maybe one individual. So what happened in Abia is more or less what I would call the greed quotient, the GQ, and then the insensitivity. And I believe that that's part of what is working for us right now. We have a situation where the sitting governor wants to go to the Senate, His son wants to be the next speaker. He's running. So you have the governor and his son on the ballot at the same time in the state. And then about 18 out of the 24 members of the House of Assembly for PDP are part of a committee called the committee. And these were nominated by the governor and his son. So sometimes I wonder if ever it happens that the PDP candidate wins, how he's going to function. But now going back, I do have a blueprint. I have a manifesto, and there are a lot of things in that manifesto, and I'll leave a copy with you before I leave. The first thing is Abia, and it is very critical. My belief is that if you fix Abia, you would have fixed Abia State. And I'll tell you why. The population in Abia is so large. It's such a big and well-planned city. And it goes back to the colonial days. Now you have a very, very excited people just waiting to run. So the first thing that I said I would do is to set up a ministry that will be in charge of Abia. Now there's a little
Specifically for
Abia development.
Won't other cities feel
They will not,
jealous?
because a lot of people depend on Abia. Okay, and because Abia had been abandoned in the last 8 years, so it is important to pay that much attention to it.
A ministry of Abia.
Yes, a ministry of Abia affairs.
It's very interesting. I mean, he's saying, I work in the ministry of Abia.